What's up, gaming heroes, and welcome back to another awesome World of Warcraft video. I'm here once again to make the best, the most fun, the most enjoyable World of Warcraft content I can. So today we're looking at why there is such outcry against solo player content in World of Warcraft. It's a really good forum post we're going to read today, and we're going to go through kind of my thoughts, my reactions, my suggestions, my tips and tricks for anyone out there playing World of Warcraft. Remember, if you've got any comments or thoughts, feelings, share them in the section below. Remember to hit that like button and click subscribe to stay tuned for more content just like this. Remember, if you want to get an awesome World of Warcraft dragon t-shirt, then check out my store. Link is in the description, where you can get awesome dragon t-shirts right now inspired by World of Warcraft. Okay, so this is a post written by someone called Adages, and it's titled, "Why is there so much outcry against solo player content?" And let's just read through this right now. I just read about every topic on the subject, and I don't understand exactly what the arguments are against. Often the critics are a bit out of touch. It's an MMO, not a single player game. Indeed, like many other MMOs out there, all these games that allow you to have hundreds of hours on them while playing by yourself. Of course, if we take Final Fantasy XIV as an example, there are raids that are mandatory and must be played with 24 players, but strictly solo players are very, very rare anyway. I myself play LFR in WoW. In addition, all these games have fun content for solo players, which is a bit like their own endgame. When I read this, I get the impression that for those people, MMO equals World of Warcraft. It was understandable when WoW was undisputed master of the MMO genre, but that's over. You're a bad player, you don't need gear. So I do want to, offer some thoughts here, actually. So, MMO, it's a multiplayer, not a single player game. No, okay. So, it's a multiplayer game which has single player aspect. So you can play World of Warcraft completely solo in every way, shape or form, apart from doing dungeons and raiding content. Unless your name's Rextroy, you need a group to do all this content. However, there is lots of stuff in-game that is designed for a solo player in specific. However, there definitely has been more of a peter off. There definitely has been more of a slow level of solo content in World of Warcraft. It's almost like World of Warcraft's pushing us towards only ever doing group content. This is good and bad for many reasons. Obviously, with it being a multiplayer game, it's great to play a game with other people, but a lot of the time you don't have time to join a group activity, and you actually just want to log on and do something by yourself without other people. You want some alone time. And nothing can feel more lonely in a game other than being surrounded by people who don't actually want to be around. That can be almost one of the most lonely feelings in the game. Sometimes you just need some time to yourself, and you should still be able to play the game as well. So there definitely should be a push for some level of solo play in an MMO RPG, because not everyone wants to be around people constantly. They will actually want to have a little bit of time to themselves, whilst also having the option to play with other people as well. So it's trying to get that good mixture right there. You're a bad player. You don't need gear. Attacks on the OP are a regular occurrence, but I would like to say that you don't want to play with a bad player. But I would like to say, if you don't want to play with a bad player and this bad player wants to play alone, so in fact everyone wins. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. A lot of people are like, this is a single player game only. You're just a bad player. You aren't good enough to do multiplayer content like dungeons or raids. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. Loads of solo players are good enough to do raiding and group content, but just don't have the time or don't want to. It's not because they're a bad player. It's just they don't want to, simply put. But a lot of people will look down on their nose and be like, oh, they're just not good enough. How can you enjoy playing solo? What, you just play getting mounts, is that all you do? And they're kind of assholes about it. I've seen it in my guild a bunch of times. They're quite nasty, and really you don't need to be like that. People have their own journey through this game, they have their own journey through life, and you just gotta let them play the game like they want to play the game. WoW's never been a solo player focus. That's true. WoW has never been a solo player focus. World of Warcraft's always been an MMORPG. It's designed to give you a story whilst also giving you a multiplayer aspect to the game. It's always been quite balanced, but I definitely think the balance has shifted towards more group player content, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they do need to like bump up that solo player experience as well. This one is interesting. Already there is plenty of factual evidence to contradict this argument. Not just evidence, factual evidence. But already one could say that game design from 2004 is not necessarily good news for the game. In 2023 the internet has changed, gamers have changed, and tastes in gaming have changed. Especially if you consider that WoW has been losing players for a decade and is now playing alongside a lot of other MMOs, but it's also competing with a lot of other multiplayer games. Then I don't see how this is an argument against adding activities or making strictly single player game mode. I think most of these threads about solo players just want to improve the game, so how is this an argument that it won't improve the game? It just proves that the state of the game is totally fine with you. Well, look, so the conversation actually isn't about you. Okay, right, so that's a really complicated way of saying that this person needs to learn how to be more concise with what they're saying, because it's so hard to actually understand what they're saying because they use a million words to say one sentence. Honestly, just cut down what you say. The one thing I do want to raise here is having a strictly single player game mode. This is actually, it's both a good idea and a bad idea at the same time. And the reason that this is a good idea is because I strongly think that there should be some type of simple way of doing dungeons and raids for like 1 to 5 times for a brand new player to get used to the mechanics of how raids work, where they are actually put in with like NPCs, not with actual players, and they get to experience what the actual raid or the dungeon is like. And then once they've had a practice run, they could call it practice mode, they can then go in with actual players and do the dungeon. That way it doesn't ruin the vibe and the experience for the other players. And also solo players do get a chance of getting gear, but be really, really low level gear in comparison, and I think that's fair. I also like the practice mode idea because it gives experienced players an opportunity to go into practice mode without ruining other people's keys, without ruining other people's dungeon experience, and trying out build. Target dummies are good, but they're not a realistic expectation of what a dungeon is actually like. When I picture a practice mode, I could almost picture a practice mode being actually quite difficult, a solo version of a dungeon where, you have to go in by yourself and you compete at a higher level each time, but you can do it in a solo format as well. It wouldn't actually take Blizzard that much work to make a solo version of it as well. Now, obviously bear in mind that it's going to be easier for like tanks and things like that, but nevertheless, I think it is a good idea. But that being said, it's not a good idea to detract the attention from multiplayer content. We should still be pushing players towards multiplayer content because at the end of the day, this is an MMO. The people who want to get the best gear, want to get the best rewards, should be doing multiplayer content and getting involved in the actual game itself. Don't forget, if you're a brand new player to World of Warcraft, you can press the I button. This will open up the looking for group, looking for raid queues. And you can actually just sign up to join a raid or to join a dungeon or even a battleground, depending on what you want to do. And it's actually a really good idea to have something like a practice mode in the game because, say, a brand new player, they might have to get the achievement for practice mode for a dungeon before they can actually do it with a real group. It could be a lot quicker to do it solo than it is with a group, for example, just to give them a bit of a taste as to what they've actually got to do. You could even have the NPCs yell out, make sure to interrupt, things like this, that type of stuff, just general guides through the game to give players who are brand new to MMOs or maybe younger players who just starting their first MMO experience a chance to actually start the game experience without ruining other people's keys. So yeah, this one is funny too. I think we're all aware of all the possible ways to play solo. The bottom line is that it's either a band-aid on a wooden leg or it's not very fun. or we'd rather have an official way of playing like the group content players have. So I really don't like this whole mentality of, oh, I can only play single player content, or I can only play group player content. I don't like this mentality where players are like, I can only do this or that. Dude, do both. I play single player and I sometimes play multiplayer. I do raiding, semi-hardcore raiding every single week. I do probably 5 to 9 Mythic Plus at around level 15 to 16 every single week. And I also do solo content where I go and play on my own. There is room for both. You don't need to be one or the other. You can do a mixture of the both. That's the beauty of the game. I do think that a lot of the time when players are making suggestions, and guildies as well, this is really annoying. There's like a really famous news broadcaster who does this, and it drives me crazy. His name's Piers Morgan. And Piers Morgan will take a situation that you suggest, a solution, and he will put it in the biggest extreme possible to make you sound like you're an idiot. And I find that players do this a lot, and guildies even do this a lot. If you ever make a suggestion or offer an alternative solution to what they're currently doing, they will take it to the extreme, make you look like an idiot. But really, you're not. You're actually making a good suggestion. As in, like, someone saying, I want more solo content in the game. Someone will then say to them, why don't you learn how to make friends? Instead of being like, actually, yeah, I wouldn't mind more solo content in the game, but do you also do group content? You know, there's a mixture, there's a way to say things, and it's just not the right way to do it. So this guy then goes on to say, so I'm going to turn this around. Why are you against activities and progression paths for solo players? What makes you think it's going to worsen your experience on WoW if tomorrow Blizzard gives, I don't know, a progression path in old content or eye level 700 gears that we could only use in open world? Ideas for gear improvements, activities that would be structurally no impact on group content. The forum is full of them. I'd propose, for example, to use the legacy content as an endgame with a challenge for solo players, and a whole new way to progress the future of WoW Lifetime. Yes, I would agree with this. I do think there should be more solo and practice modes in dungeons and things of this nature. I think it gives those players who either are a low skill level or just don't want to play with other people or want some alone time an opportunity to play the game as well. I know a load of times when I've actually, in Dragonflight, I've actually been wanting to play, some solo content. I've actually turned World of Warcraft off and I've gone and played another game. The reason for that is there's just not a lot of solo content in World of Warcraft Dragonflight as much as there used to be. And so it's not as enjoyable for me to do that solo content. So when I want to play with people, I go on World of Warcraft, and when I don't, I go on another game on Steam or something of that nature. Now, if I was Blizzard, I'd be like, wait, we're losing time from this guy. We don't want him to not be playing World of Warcraft. So let's actually add in some solo activities as well. That's the way I'd probably look at it. Now, there are obviously 293 replies to this. So I'm going to try and condense it down a little bit and pick out the best replies. Someone says, I don't think anyone has a problem with this. The problem is when boring solo content gives good gear in Raid, PvP, or Mythic Plus. Because then anyone serious about the game modes will have to do it, or they'll be benched. Get lower passes, lower rating, because they will have gear disadvantage. So this is what I loved about Torghast in Shadowlands. I know a lot of people see it as Torghast, and the problem with that, right, is that Blizzard do not know how to put things in the game without making it a must do. And by that is to say, when they released Torghast, they basically said, right, here's a new game mechanic, a solo dungeon you can do, but guess what? You have to do it to get gear, to get your legendary gear. You have to do it. And so this really fun piece of content, which was actually really enjoyable, became a chore, became something we had to do, rather than something we could do if we wanted to challenge ourselves, to try out different builds, things of this nature. Blizzard needs to really get used to introducing new game modes like Torghast into the game, but not making a forced thing that players have to do to get the highest level gear. Instead, make it a solo game mode where you can get some gear, but not high level gear, not the top end gear, not the gear that will get you legendary gear. actually make it so it's just fun content to get transmogs, to get pets, and to get mounts, things like this. It's solo player content, should be something that's constantly farmable, has really rare drops, a bit like Island Expeditions but for solo players. That's the way that they need to start introducing these types of things into the game, rather than making it a bit more like, you have to do this. It's not fun when you do. This person's completely right. You don't want to be introducing a solo piece of content and then saying you have to do this to get good gear. That's just going to really ruin that piece of content for many people because they don't want to farm it. So this is another classic example where someone takes something someone says and runs it to the extreme. They say, I never see outcry unless you think you deserve mythic quality gear from a world quest. Come on. The guy is clearly not saying he wants mythic level gear from a world quest. He's just saying he wants to actually be able to enjoy and play the game in solo content. It's just a bit toxic to say, you know, what you just did, which is, you know, you're expecting mythic level gear from a world quest. That's ridiculous. This is an interesting one. So Nicolo says, in my opinion, many people are against paths for solo players because while it becomes a gearing path for you, for me, it becomes an additional gearing path I have to participate in. Exactly what I was saying about Torghast and how if they released it but didn't put the forced gearing method in, then you would feel a lot more like you're going to want to play it, right? I think the whole issue for me with that area in Dragonflight where you can go and farm rep with the, like, and you can go farm rep by killing all the elementals and stuff, it's just boring. Like, it's forced group content. There's no enjoyment there. There's no satisfaction with doing it. It's just not enjoyable, and it's not really a solo player experience as much as a group player experience. It can be, but it's just not as fun in my opinion. With the addition of Mythic Plus Raiders, Raiders were expected to start running dungeons here when they added visions in BFA. Raiders were expected to do them here, etc. I agree. They need to learn how to implement these solo types of game mode without forcing players to do it. If they want to do it for the actual rewards, they can. But don't force them and say this is how you get the highest end gear. All you do is you isolate the player base and you make them hate Blizzard. They hate you for forcing them to do something that is a solo version of the game. Whereas, if you say put a solo bit of content in the game and say you can do this or this if you want to, no problem if not. It's like there's a story where there's a farmer. It's like there's a story where there's a mayor who is trying to get his townspeople to start growing potatoes. And he goes to them and he says, right guys, I need you all to start growing potatoes. The reason for this is you're going to get so much more food. It's going to be so much better for you. Here's the potatoes. I need you all to go back to your fields and plant these potatoes. You have to do this. And, you know, all the village people go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do it because you told me to. No, forget that. I'm already farming. I'm okay. Screw you. I'm not interested in what you have to say. So he goes, okay. And he goes back to his wife, and his wife and him are talking, and he goes, I told them they have to, you know, farm these potatoes because that's how they're going to get more food. And the wife says, you know, when you tell me to do stuff, how do you think I feel about that? And he goes, probably a bit annoyed. She goes, yeah. And he goes, I see what you're saying. So he goes outside and he starts his potatoes himself. He plants them in the soil, and then as they start to grow, people are asking, you know, how's it going and everything like this. He's like, oh, I've just been farming some potatoes, and they'll go, oh, how's that going? He's like, it's going really well, but I don't really have enough to share. I'm sorry, it's really, they're only for me to grow. He goes to bed that night, he wakes up in the morning, comes to his garden, and all of the potatoes have been dug up and stolen, and people have gone around and they've actually planted it in their own garden. The whole adage of what I'm saying here is if you tell people they have to do it, they're not going to do it. But if you show them, or you give them the benefit of saying you can do it if you want to, they're far more likely to actually get involved and enjoy that content. Same here. So someone says, if you're telling me that deleting dungeons and raids from the game, that WoW will be so much better for solo players, call me skeptical. Yeah, I would agree with that. But he's not really saying that. He's just saying he wants more solo content in the game, and he's trying to pre-argue all of the points that he sees in all the other forums. So he puts basically some pre-arguments in them. And like usual, if people don't have something simple to say, they take what you're saying and they take it to the very extreme instead of offering valuable discussion in the subject. Someone says, there's no need to delete anything from the game. Blizzard's already doing a good job with solo content. Just others want to change everything to be solo. It's not going to happen. No, that's not the case. They don't want to change everything to be solo. They just want extra solo content introduced into the game. So it's not just dungeons and raids, which I'm not going to lie, Dragonflight does feel like it's just dungeons and raids. It doesn't really feel like there's anything else to do with the game. I might be wrong in that. There's obviously Battleground. Yes, okay. But outside of that, I don't really do anything other than dungeons and raids at all. There's not really, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of stuff to do outside of that, which is why I'm saying, you know, the solo player does feel a little bit lackluster in Dragonflight. But it's weird because it goes down a tangent now where they're all saying, well, why would we axe raids in dungeons? No one's suggesting remove raids in dungeons. They're just saying add extra content for solo players. Someone says, lol, solo players, laugh my ass off even. As you said, it's because this is an MMO, so group content should be the main focus, organic, open world, and instant. I do agree with this. I do think that group content should be the focus, but I do also think there should also be a little bit of solo content as well. But generally, I prefer group content, dungeons and Mythic Plus and raiding and Battlegrounds are so much more fun than solo content, but it doesn't say, like things like Torghast, for example. I loved Torghast. As a solo player, I loved Torghast so much. But as a dungeon / Mythic Plus / raider, I hated Torghast. I had two feelings about it. I hated being told I had to do it to get this gear. But then I also loved it because if I just wanted to mong out and play the game by myself, kill stuff and go through the levels, I actually really loved doing that. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. The thing that a lot of people don't actually understand is that solo players don't care about gear so much. Like, for the most part, most of solo players do not care at all about gear. But raiders and dungeon people and Mythic Plus people seem to think that, you know, solo players really care about getting gear solo. They don't care. It's not about the gear for them. It's about transmog, pets, gold, and mounts. That's pretty much all it's about for them. They want to play the game, they want to enjoy it. They don't care about getting the highest level gear. It's not something they're bothered about. They literally only care about transmog, pets, mounts, and gold. That's it. That's honestly it. They do not care about any of the other stuff. So saying the whole argument of, oh, solo players just want to get the highest level gear with the least amount of work, it's nothing to do with that. They don't care at all about that. They just want cool looking gear, cool looking mounts, and generally to feel awesome when they're playing the game. They want the character to look awesome, they want the character to feel awesome, and they want to have big bags filled with gold. Like, if I was to redesign the whole Torghast situation back in Shadowlands, I would have put Torghast in the game, and I would have put no ties at all to current content. I would not have made it so you had to do it to get Soul Ash, to get, you know, to get legendary gear. I'd make it so it was absolutely jam-packed with loads of different transmog sets, about 20-ish mounts, and loads of achievements. And then I'd also have a good gold making strategy in there as well. And I'll just make it purely a solo aspect of the game. If people want to do it for those collectionist aspects, they can do. If not, they don't have to. But that's what I would have actually done to make the game of Torghast way more fun. And I think that generally the whole Blizzard and World of Warcraft community would have much preferred it like that. But yeah, when you force people to do it, they don't. Alright, so this is an interesting one. He says, okay, let's flip the script. Why are you against progression path this game has had for nearly 2 decades? There's a solo aspect to the game, always has been. Is there? Yeah, there always has been. But currently there doesn't feel like much solo. It's how most of us get started in a new expansion, questing in open world, looking for treasure, killing rare spawns, group. But eventually you burn through all of it and you're left with weekly quests, daily quests, and world quests. True. This ends the solo progress and can be done in blue gear, yet doing it. I agree here. It really is. Like, once you've leveled up, done all your, you know, killing rares and stuff like that, there's not really any solo content. Massively agree. So now you need to group up for bigger challenges. Weekly world bosses, elite areas, and others in open worlds give you greater rewards. The challenge is greater and requires help. just as it's been since vanilla. Group content nets greater rewards, and I'm betting every solo player out there kills the world boss every. The next step for greater rewards is instances, which you don't want to participate in. And that's not a problem with not doing them if you accept rewards are capped along with the content you choose to do. Again, for those players who are solo and do want to get the very best gear in the game, it's tough shit, to be honest. If you want to get the best gear, you need to do group content, you need to do dungeons, you need to do raids, you need to do PvP, arenas, etc, etc. You shouldn't be able to get highest level content without doing and putting in the work. Otherwise, it just completely ruins the whole effort that people have to go through to get that gear. But I don't think that is the argument at all. I don't think solo players really care about the highest level gear at all. I think they only care about the transmogs and the pets, mounts, and gold. You're asking for the game to be redesigned to suit your playstyle. No, they're not. They're not asking for the game to be redesigned. They're asking for additional aspects of content to be introduced to the game. That's why you're getting pushback. Most of us conquer the instance challenges and are rewarded with gear to help us with the next one. If you never participate in the more difficult challenges, why should you receive equal gear for solo open world content that can be and is a conquest of greens? It's so interesting to see how people manipulate and twist an argument to suit what they are wanting to say. This person just literally said they want more solo content, and everyone's like going down this path of, you're asking for gear equal to raids and dungeons. They never even said, but everyone's going on about it constantly, like crazy amounts, and they're basically shouting them down, like a mob shouting someone down. They're making you feel bad, but there's really no point, because World of Warcraft should have a solo aspect, other than just world quests, other than just killing rares. There should be a game mode where you can just go and kill stuff, try and get cool gear rewards, like there was with Island Expeditions, Cool Gas, etc, etc. No point in posting this here, you're just going to get the same. This game is fine, it's you comments. I mean, the summary of this post pretty much answers your post. Yeah, Shira, I 100% agree with what you've said here. Generally, this person brought up they would like more solo content in the game, brought it up in the relevant place, which is the forums, and people have just pretty much shouted down and said, you're not going to send gear as me without putting the work in, which is quite silly. So this whole discussion that we've just had about solo group content, to get to the bottom of it, I'm saying I love dungeons, I love raids, and I love PvP. I do all of that, and I also do a bit of solo content as well. So I'm a mixture of player. I like doing a little bit of everything, right? I do mostly, PvE content, raiding, plus. And I do it at a semi-decent level, 15s, 16s, plus 15s, plus 16s, and obviously heroic raiding. Hopefully going into Mythic shortly, which is going to be really fun. But generally, I also like to play solo sometimes. I like doing some stuff on my own. And I see no reason why Blizzard can't, add some extra aspects to the game, which is aimed at that. But here's where I would change it. I wouldn't say, Blizzard, don't put gear rewards in. Don't put gear rewards in that are like competitive with current level content. I wouldn't say, the eye level of this gear should be of relevant content level. It shouldn't be scaled to heroic level or raid level. It should probably be like normal dungeon level, to be honest. But the transmog aspect is really unique. The pet should be really fun. The mount should be really plentiful and enjoyable to get. There should just be lots of reskins and a few, really unique mounts. And there should be a bunch of titles and achievements that you can get, well, like Island Expeditions, but solo content available for them as well. That's what I would do. And I definitely wouldn't tie it into the PvP system or anything like that. I think that would be a terrible idea. But that's just generally my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Put them in the comment section below. Hit that like button and click subscribe so you can stay tuned for more videos just like this. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to check out these t-shirts. Link in the description. Get yourself a dragon t-shirt right now. This is Erosium, out.